Thing. All right, welcome teams. Really nice. Okay, perfect. Really nice to see you also. Just wanted to say, like, not just to hear you, even though you're some of you are muted. And well, can you imagine we are at I would say, epitome of our program. The last week is always the best one, the sweetest one about marketing, sales, and business development. And we have two amazing workshops. One is today about this magical letters, magical abbreviation go to market. And the other one is on Thursday, so don't miss it out, about talking with corporate partners and B2B sales. So more in details and in depth and tips and tricks. And yeah, happy to present the speaker today, Kurt, who is now a part of Virtuoso team. We already had one workshop from already ex-Virtuoso, so Alex Fine, who was giving a workshop on how to be a better CEO, so more like personal strategies, I would say. However, I think that, everything on early stage is a personal thing to the founder. So even GTM strategy, in a way. And yeah, with this being said, welcome everyone. Once it's possible, please open your camera so that we also will see you. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and we will get it going with them. And yeah, then Kurt, the floor is yours. I'm not doing the introduction particularly because I think that the best way to introduce oneself is like to pass the word, to pass the torch, and you will tell us more about you and your perspective.
Sure. Thanks so much, Arena, and thanks, Dimitri. Thanks everyone else. I wish I could have like a one-on-one with all of you right now, some way. But it's hopefully I'll get some questions and be able to interact with you personally on that level one-to-one. So here we go. I'm going to go relatively quickly. If I'm speaking too quickly, do let me know. Okay, so just a short agenda. Just I wanted to talk about my background because I think it's important you know where I'm coming from when I share my experiences. And then we'll go through some go-to-market strategy, advice, what not to do's, and then if we have some extra times, we have some extra things, really practical things, hopefully, because I know where you're starting at. I've either been in your shoes or I've advised or whatever worked with people who have been in your shoes from literally when there's just one person and one concept all the way through to much larger companies and where you're all going to be headed next. And then we'll have ample time for Q&A. Okay, so I'm at Virtuoso now. It's a 240 person company with 30 plus million in revenue. So it's a good sized company. It's an exciting time of transformation with our product portfolio. We sell really interesting software for cloud providers. So like think of Amazon or Azure or Google, but small to medium ones. And we have software that helps do virtualization, storage, all sorts of, also for application management, all sorts of things. And other companies as well, enterprises and SaaS companies and ISVs, independent software companies, which came before ISVs. And so they can take our software and become much more efficient if they want to have their own data centers or use up third-party data centers and use our software to be much more efficient or less expensive than, for example, Amazon or have more control or whatever reason. So that's Virtuoso. It is part of the Constructor Group, or a sister company, I should say, the Constructor Group. And in fact, 2 months ago, I was hired as president of Constructor Group. I took a trip to Bremen and met many at the university. But after 2 months, my boss, Serge, the owner and CEO of Constructor Group, moved me over to Virtuoso to help transfer that company. And so I may come back to Constructor Group. I actually hope I do because I think it's such an interesting place. I've never seen a company this interesting before with the very ambitious ed tech strategy, 21 plus scenarios in education, science, and research. Going to be in 100 languages for our customers and users. We're going to do 100 acquisitions as a company, which is just a tremendous amount, leveraging AI heavily, meta presence, quantum in different forms. So that alone is interesting. And then the whole venture capital firm, ARM, deep tech, AI, SaaS, et cetera, ed tech, which you're very familiar with, and then the education piece. And so it's just such an interesting group. I hope I come back. In the meantime, I'm still talking and helping a little bit more as like an advisor, but very focused on Virtuoso now. Okay. So here is my background. So I'm a five-time CEO. It was always a dream of mine, and it felt like it took me a really long time to get there. I mean, I ran my own little simple businesses in high school or middle school, like going helping mow the lawns or shovel the snow or do all those types of things. So I was the CEO of that, of one or two people, but very simple businesses. But over time, I got really interested in technology. And you all, or many of you, have a direct shot, right, at being CEO right away. You already are CEO. You might be CTO, you might be something else for those of you, but you can do the Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates thing and kind of do it in some cases even before finishing college or grad school. And so that's one way to do it. That's a great way, but that's not for everyone. For me, it was, I more wanted to learn from other companies first at a really high level and then apply that at a smaller scale startup. And so for me, I'll go through my background, but I have been a CEO five times now. All of those companies have been successful, and all have changed a lot since I joined with the team. One of those was sold to a company, which later went public, which is great. The three of the others had already been sold, and then Virtuoso, my job is to strengthen and grow it, and then sell it. So that could be the second company I've sold. I worked at startups three times. So the first one was Parallels, which is basically was a sister company of Constructor Group. It had the same founder. I then went to Worklight. It was a small Israeli company in New York City, which was later acquired by IBM in the mobile software space. Parallels doing virtualization for desktops and doing cloud software. And then MongoDB, many of you have probably heard of it just based on what you all are doing. And that was a true rocket ship. That was my Google, if you will, or close to a Google in New York City in the database market, which I was familiar with. I've 20 plus, maybe 30 times I've been a board member, advisor, venture partner, and many of these are very small companies. So one person, or two people, or three people, four people, five people. So really early. And some of those have grown and been extremely successful, including Datadog, which is now worth $60 billion. And I met them when they had seven people. So maybe a little bit bigger than some of you are now, a little bit smaller than some of you are now. Or another company I met when it was literally just one person with an outsourced CTO, which I never thought would work, and it got acquired for $300 million, just some 5 or 10 years later. It completely shocked me. So you never know. In Datadog, when there were seven people, I thought they would eventually become maybe a 30-person company max, not 3,000 people. So founders can surprise you, and you can surprise yourselves, for sure. I was in product management at Microsoft in the database business, so a really geeky area of Microsoft, very highly technical. Before that, I was a management consultant at Carney. It's a firm with good strength in the US and Germany, actually. And I got to work on a range of different things. And I always told people, and I was at Harvard for business school before that, I always told people if I found Microsoft or Google, or if I had my own startup at age 22, plus or minus, I wouldn't have even gone to Carney or gotten a graduate degree. I only went because I hadn't found my love for technology yet, and for my love for startups and that kind of thing. So that is what I would do differently if I went back. And then economics, favorite subject in high school was math. I loved computers, but I loved, like, 100 things. And so I think if I were really to be like a Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, I would have had to just pretty much mainly focus on that. And I was unwilling to, because I loved music and performing music, and I loved sports, and I loved all sorts of things. And so, and I was working very hard as well. So that's that. Okay. My strengths, everyone comes from somewhere, right? Either technical or product or sales or somewhere else. For me, I've always been a generalist. So from those very simple businesses and before college, even at AT Kearney, it's essentially general management because you're doing sales, marketing, finance, strategy projects. Microsoft, I was a product manager, but I was also a business manager, and so I was looking after pricing and marketing and legal and finance things in addition to the product stuff. And it just happened at every other company I worked at. I was doing at least two things, not just one. And this is you all are doing this even more so. So you're doing everything, or you and your partner are doing, half of the stuff at the company and then discussing the other half with each other. just to make decisions and figure out how to move things along. So I think you all have a great track here in terms of getting that generalist experience, but also hopefully learning to be extremely good at one or two things in particular, which can benefit your customers and such. So team building, this is really important if you want to scale and have a successful exit, successful company, successful business, successful product portfolio. You can't do those things if you're just one person or two people. And so being able to attract, motivate, retain, coach, improve, move out when it's not working, people, which frankly not everyone is willing to do. This is an absolutely critical skill. It can be as important or more important than your product idea or how clean your code is or anything else. Okay. So for me, marketing, design, writing, attention to detail. I didn't set out to be a marketing person, but it's just something that I kind of got exposure to at Microsoft, and then at Parallels, and I read a bunch of brand books and design books and these kind of things. And I've always kept that with me, even though I know I'm a true general manager and a CEO. I like to spend a little bit extra time contributing in those areas because my job as CEO is to make the company as great as it can be, not to, spend the most time on some area because I think it's interesting. It's that can come into play, but it's more about where you can contribute and kind of letting other people do what they do best as well, without any ego attached. So sales, business development, partnerships. This was unusual because I was in marketing first after product management, and then I went into sales. And the only reason I was able to do that is because the company I got hired for was a startup that had was so bad that they wanted my marketing experience and they were willing to take a chance on me in sales. But any great company would never have let me do that. And that was an amazing experience. Similar to when I went to Parallels for Microsoft, and I was able to run all of marketing, even though I hadn't done it before. So startups are amazing places for growth, not just for you as the founders or early hires, but also for people you can bring on. That's a huge part of your pitch, is you can really accelerate their careers, accelerate their impact, let them work on more things, have more fun, move faster. The main reason I left Microsoft to join a startup in the first place was I had to spend like a half a million or $1 million on some research study and focus groups to take action that we already knew was obvious that we had to take with SQL Server, my product. We needed a better UI. We needed to improve the complicated performance throttle, and then we needed to actually market it properly. It was completely hidden and not marketed against MySQL, which was a free offering for our low-end offering. And so we had to do this $1 million study. And then I went with an executive, and he kind of just looked at the study, and he's like, "I don't believe these numbers." And I was like, "Okay, well, waste all that money, and people don't even believe the numbers." And so I think it's time for me to go to a startup now where I don't have to do that study. I can just move much faster. Okay. Product. And it was really hard to leave Microsoft, by the way, but that was a clear signal for me, and I always knew I wanted to go to a startup. That was going to be the time. Um, Product management, analytics, and so on, and then the atypical career path we talked about. Okay. Some of my specialties over time, and some of these things I didn't even know existed when I was starting out, but company transformation, my view on this is you come into a company, you assess it, you assess the team, the product portfolio, the pricing, everything, the team, and then you make, deliberate and, in my view, in my experience, aggressive decisions to improve the company as rapidly as possible. And this is not for everybody, but it's something I like moving fast. And I have assessed a lot of companies, and I've seen a lot of amazing leadership and a lot of great examples in terms of what to do at a company, whether it's technical or business. And I like applying those and seeing the results from that, and then being able to exit a company, which is great fun, and not just for the obvious monetary reasons, but it's a way to energize the team towards some goal, which can be very public and it's just very defined as well. There's a date, Ubersmith. I sold it on July 1st of 2021. I'll never forget. And then also what it can become after, as well, with whatever home the company gets to, or if it's an IPO, you just keep moving it along like a Datadog or MongoDB. Growth acceleration. So a lot of companies talk about growth. There are even positions in marketing that are called growth these days. I believe they're still called growth. And every company wants to grow. You want to create a growing company, and actually, as a startup, it's starting from zero. It's much easier. It's not easy to grow, but it's easier to grow than if you say went to a company like IBM and tried to grow that just in a week or something. It's probably like literally impossible. But at a small company, you get one new deal, company that pays $200 a month. You have some growth over your $2,000 a month that you started because you just started getting a few customers. And so the growth acceleration means instead of growing like 10% last year, now we're growing 20%. Instead of growing 100%, now we're growing 150%. So that is much harder than just growing in general. Growing 10% a year, 20% a year, or as a startup, 100% a year. It's again not easy, but it's much harder if you can take a good growth percentage and make it much higher, take a bad growth percentage and make it bigger. Even take a company that has negative growth. And some startups actually have negative growth in one quarter because a bad event, a big customer churns, or something else happens. So it can really happen to anyone. That's growth acceleration. Positioning is just positioning of the company, the products in the best way possible using words. I also kind of include design in that as well. But how do you, yeah, position a company, a team, the products, and then it helps you with everything. It helps you with sales, with your customers. It helps you attract great talent. And I liken it on the hiring side with the job description. If you put just a little bit more effort, there's a good chance you're going to get somebody who's a lot better. So a lot of people just create a job description. They just kind of try to get through with it, and then have a recruiter go find you somebody. I like to stop and make sure the job description is written absolutely as perfectly as it could be. Almost like a professional athlete. Michael Jordan is a multi-billionaire, and somebody who's amazing at basketball, even in the NBA, is not a multi-billionaire, and he's just that much better. People want to see the best, right? And pay for the best. M&A is mergers and acquisitions. That's acquiring companies so we can become bigger, or selling your company so you can have a great exit, or merging with a company. That's much more rare in terms of merging because the companies usually have to be kind of equal size, and then like who leads it afterwards. It's a little. So those are much less common. Cost efficiency. A lot of people think they have the best team ever, especially when you get larger. They want to just stay loyal to everybody, but the best, very best companies in the world, they rigorously look at performance, and every year, 5 or 10% of the people should be moved to different positions or moved out of the company. So it's better for everyone, so they can thrive somewhere else where they're not thriving here, and we can go get somebody better or cheaper or both. Okay, spin outs is when one company spins out of another. It's an obvious concept. It's a tricky thing. I've been involved in several of those by accident, and then exits, which we've talked about. Some of the companies I've worked out going from 0 million in revenue, which I'm guessing most of you are at right now. Worklight, we went up to 4 million. We almost went bankrupt, went out of business. When I joined, we had spent 15 million in venture capital funding and had no product market fit. Today, you can't really do that unless it's maybe deep tech or deep science. Even get that kind of money, there's much more focus on having some traction, some validation from customers of the market to get that kind of funding. But they had spent it before I joined, and we had 2 million left, and then we spent that, and then we got 3 million more from the investors, not at good terms, but just as a bridge, they call it, to give us a little bit more time. And it was just enough time to reposition the company, rebuild the team, find the product market, well, get some leads from the market, have the conversation with the customers, get the feedback so we could build the product that gave us product market fit, that gave us the early wins, that then in early partnerships that then enabled us to get a nice strategic acquisition from IBM at close to $100 million, which really should have been zero. So that was particularly rewarding. Parallels was more growing a startup from 3 million to 100 million. This is not really relevant for you all because you're more focused on 0 to 3 right now, I'm guessing. But Parallels, we'll talk a bit about how they succeeded. But that was a startup that was very aggressive, but just grew relatively relatively kind of up and to the right. MongoDB was a true rocket ship where we used the open source model to get millions of developers downloading it. Then we had raised a lot of money because our founders were really good, and so they could easily raise money. So we took that money, we subsidized a lot of events to get a lot of developers to come to them to learn about this new modern database, which could be really good for the web or whatever. And And then that company just kept growing and growing and growing even after I left. And now I don't know how much revenue they have, but I think it's around $1 billion plus or minus. Just it's just incredible. And then some of these other companies were much larger scale, so 200 million to 700 million, and then 500 to a billion, 800 million to 1.5 billion. So I've seen the whole scale basically from essentially from zero to 1.5 billion. This is accelerating growth examples at some of these companies, less relevant for you all now. So I'm going to skip ahead. Increasing profitability. Profitability not so important for for a startup in the early days. It's more about the product market fit in the early team and the validation and the fundraising, that kind of thing. But these are more mature companies, not really startups. And the focus for those types of companies it becomes not just growth but becomes also profitability at some point. Happens to every company. Okay, go to market. So, what is go to market? I define it as sales. Okay, and there are different types of sales. And we can even, if we have extra time, we can talk about what a sales team would look like over time or what it starts with earlier. Earlier, it really should be the founder or founders doing the sales directly, doing the demos. If you have a demo, getting the feedback, just so you're completely tied into the feedback and this kind of thing. A lot of companies hire the sales rep too early, and you kind of get you're like arm's length away, even if you're on some of those calls and you just can't taste it or feel it, the feedback, and so you can kind of move really fast with that feedback. It's hard because you're many times building the product or doing the fundraising or doing other things, but there's no substitute for a founder early on in terms of like how amazing founders can be at sales. And I don't mean in terms of being like slick and dressing nicely and this kind of thing. I mean more in terms of you all have created these companies out of your own minds and your own vision. And so for the customers to be able to talk to you all, not only as because you run the companies and you own the companies, you can actually have them do what the customers need if it's reasonable. But the customer gets access to directly to this person who it's pretty special for them too to be able to talk to a founder, I think. So the different types of sales, there's sales development, there's which is more like someone who warms up a lead or a customer before or a prospect before it's time for a sales rep to actually talk to them. And then you have inside sales, which is more a word for people who aren't, traveling around the world in expensive planes and staying in hotels and that kind of thing, but people who over the phone or on Zoom sessions can actually, sell the product and demo the product and that kind of thing. And then enterprise sales, and then you have sales engineers who do more of the demos and the technical questions, and then the regular sales reps do more of the pricing, the quoting, organizing the meetings, creating the overall proposal if there's a proposal. And sometimes you might just have online sales, for example, and so on and so forth. And there are other roles. I'm simplifying a little bit here, but there are other roles as well. Marketing. In marketing sales, you're always starting with generalists first, and it's actually you usually first, or an early hire. And so you hire one marketing person or one salesperson. You have one marketing vendor or excuse me, a sales vendor. But over time, there's so many different things that one person can do or the team can do. And over time, when you're really successful, you'll have somebody or even a team that does some of these different things. So product launch, every time you have a new capability, putting that out there somehow on X or on LinkedIn or just emailing your customers if you have people who have kind of signed up on your website to learn more. For example, the PR public relations. This is where you create press releases or you use AI to create press releases, and you can distribute them out or just put them on the wire or just put them on your website. Or you can even just skip the press release and just use that for like important announcements like your funding round or like a major announcement. And there's less emphasis, I think, on PR these days, unless you're like the hottest startup. And sometimes you get pulled into PR by your investors, which is great. And they can actually lead the process for you and help you with that. Analysts or analyst relations is there firms like Gardner and IDC and Forrester in the US. And these are companies that your potential customers might pay to get advice. And so if they can write about you, similar to the press writing about you, it can generate leads for you and sales opportunities. Events, physical, webinar type digital events, etc. Online marketing, this is SEO and SEM. Search engine optimization and search engine marketing or paid keywords. And I've seen LinkedIn being used more now for B2B, which is interesting and can be targeted pretty well. Then you have product marketing, people who create the materials for the product or the product section of the website and do the launch. And then brand, this is like your logos, your design style, your PowerPoint template, your datasheet template, these types of things as well. And again, I'm simplifying. Channel partners, this is if you are selling through other companies. So distributors, these are called distributors, resellers. Distributors sell to resellers, and then resellers sell to your customers. There's also an online channel, if you will. So online is just you selling directly, but they could be third parties with an online marketplace where your products or services could be sold. So you can go basically direct or indirect. Indirect is the channel. You may have heard indirect before. And then the direct can be basically, and then you have online sales. Okay. Um, and then you have other types of partners. So these can be really important for software companies, which I'm familiar with, and I'm sure other types of companies as well. But technology partners, which is different from channel partners. So this is hardware and software type companies. And then services partners who can potentially take your product and build customizations for your customers and their customers, or just help install it or implement it or manage it. And then training as well if you're not doing that yourself, if that's even relevant for your company. If it's consumer, it's probably called something else. All right. And then go to market fit can be as important as product market fit. Everybody knows what PMF is. That's here in this audience. There's also business model fit. I don't know if I've seen that before. I've seen product market founder fit. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that actually makes sense. So you want to have PMF, but you want to make sure the founders, care about it and they're interested in that space. Like you don't want to start a company just because you have a great idea, but you just don't like that product domain or you don't like the types of customers that would be your customer. So you want to have product market founder fit, but also go to market fit and business model fit are important as well. And the business model fit can come later. Usually, obviously, the product market fit or the team fit comes first, and then the go to market, and then the business model. That's kind of like the Facebook sequence, if you will, building the great product and then rolling out to additional markets and telling people about it at different universities, and then figuring out how to make money off of it, similar to Google as well. Okay, some of the sales models, not to overwhelm you, but I just wanted to make the point that there are a lot of different sales models, and it's a good idea not to just assume there's one model that makes sense for you because that's what your competitor is doing, or that's just what you woke up in the middle of the night and thought that was the right thing to do. You should be aware of the different models and then choose the one, at least start with the one or two that seem to make the most sense for where you're at right now. So Carney, the consulting firm, is very high touch sales, very high price sales, and not a huge number of leads because they're selling million or millions of dollars in consulting projects. Microsoft, it was basically every sales model you can imagine. I mean, they have the Xbox, they have Azure, they have Office, and so it's direct, it's indirect, it's through the ISVs. OEM, which was both software OEM and hardware OEM. OEM, like with Dell, where they gave them Windows and they got paid a certain amount for every copy of Windows. And ISV is where it can get, like they take the database and bundle it with the ISV's accounting package at a special price or a revenue share or some clever models there. And then they have the home, which is, where you can actually see the software in Staples or Best Buy or these other types of stores or online as well. Parallels was online, but also through these cloud partners and then through the enterprise little s. So Worklight was very surgical. So they were very focused on the US as an Israeli company, which I thought was really smart. And they didn't really even want to talk to the Israeli companies, even though our founder actually and CEO actually lived in Tel Aviv. And so they were just super focused, and the CEO would travel to New York, which is a very long flight, but he would do it every 3 weeks. And it's part of why the company became very successful. It was very banking focused, which in retrospect was only because the company was really small and we had software that could be used anywhere as mobile software, but we had to focus it somehow. Otherwise, we just wouldn't have the same impact. And so you can focus on banking, even if it's not banking software, and you can go to a banking event or you can get introductions to bank people through your investors or through your alumni that went to your school, family and friends, etc. And it was just a way to just focus somehow, even if it was a little bit arbitrary, and it worked. And then from there, you go into insurance and investment, and then we went in completely outside of financial services. But it was just a way to just rationalize and make things more focused. And then you can be opportunistic. I was at a event in San Francisco and I demoed in front of 500 or 1,000 financial services people, and I thought it was all U.S. people. But we had a little tiny little booth afterwards. We didn't have to spend that much money in the event. And this guy from Korea came, and he turned out to be just an amazing lead. And we would have never talked, we would never focused on Korea, being in New York. And he became this amazing customer. They built this mobile app that had like 300 screens in it, doing digital reality or augmented reality. This was in like 2000 and 10 or something or 11, which it was just insane what they built. It was so cool using native technologies and web technologies all in one app, multiple platforms. And they got featured in the MIT Tech Review in the United States, which is incredible. And so opportunistic activities can make a lot of sense. You have to be smart with them. They have to really be driving them and really kind of making it easy for you to justify. We never flew to Korea, and we were very opportunistic, and that made a lot of sense. MongoDB, I talked about open source, and then we layered on premium software and support in a clever way. And then the cloud market came, and some of these companies get lucky. With Worklight, the mobile market took off. With MongoDB, the cloud market took off. And the cloud market was a way for us to get monetized properly. With open source, you don't really make money unless you do clever things. And so that was a way to respond to that. Ubersmith was more small to medium-sized cloud providers as opposed to the larger ones. And as that market was taking off in data centers, as the data center market was taking off because cloud was taking off. And then Lumen, who bought Ubersmith and then had me lead three larger companies for them, was very verticalized. So they were focused on telecom and media, and similar to Worklight with the banking focus. But in this case, we had a lot of vertical functionality. So vertical functionality for wireless communication providers and these types of things. And then Virtuoso was just a cloud, but also managed services and people doing managed services around the cloud, that kind of thing. Okay. So with marketing drivers, so versus the sales models, I've learned over time that different things, again, work at different companies. Sometimes the same thing works, but you have to try multiple things and make sure it's working for this company. So I'll try to go through this a little faster. But with Carney, it was pro bono consulting. So they did this free consulting for nonprofits, and the board members of those nonprofits were CEOs of big companies. And so it was a very clever way to meet people who could hire them to do commercial work. And then they shared a lot of intellectual capital or research about different business concepts or efficiency concepts. And that was a good way to drive interest as well. Microsoft, there's a lot about the developers. So at least in my space for the database, it's the developers, and then it's the IT professionals and the database administrators. But if it's the developers who are making the decision usually about what database is used. And then all those other people come in later. And so figuring out who is kind of almost like a first principles or whatever type of audience or user can be really helpful. And a lot of startups actually just start selling by other startups to other startups because it's people that they know and can get feedback from them. You can ask your friend to give you some feedback. That could be a great way to get started. I know Datadog did that in particular, just a bunch of small startups that no one had heard of, but gave them enough feedback to build something awesome. And then they just kept going to larger and larger companies over time. Microsoft used this channel. They did a lot of brand advertising. They can afford to have TV ads at the Super Bowl if they want, this kind of thing. Parallels, we did a lot of press releases. We do like on average 1.2 press releases per week, which seemed kind of crazy It was a couple hundred person company, so not like a very, very small startup. But we could get it picked up by people very easily who cared about this hosting or cloud market. And it was just a great way, and it really surprised me that that would be like one of the top marketing tactics that we could use. Partnerships and partner marketing with Microsoft and others, where we got exposure to their user bases or customer bases, was incredible. And then with Worklight, it was SEO. So we figured out how to do SEO for mobile application platform, which is what we had to offer people who had these cross-platform development challenges for smartphones and tablets, which became just a huge pain for them. And so, with a relatively small investment with a vendor, we paid some thousands of dollars to. We started ranking number one or number two on this against some much bigger companies like Oracle, which was really cool and really helpful. So we got the leads coming in, and then we're able to sell to them and create a much bigger revenue stream. We bought some email lists, and that actually helped us find Cigna, which is one of the largest insurance companies in the US, and UBS, one of the largest investment firms in the world. Um, and and then Lumen was very vertically focused, similar to Worklight again. In a sense, if you have a vertically focused company, it does make things a little bit easier because you can just focus on one industry. If it's if it's biotech or if it's oil and gas software, whatever it is. But the companies that are horizontal are actually really interesting as well. And sometimes you just want to focus on one or a couple of verticals to start. You don't have to, but it can help. Virtuoso, what we're doing now is country focused marketing. So rather than just trying to blast a press release out or some campaign out to a region like Europe or the Middle East, for example, or Asia, we're getting very surgical in terms of the countries we're looking at. And so for your startup, you can do this because you can either start in the country you live in, because it's a little bit easier to get access to and develop good relationships with them, or you can just pick a company like the country like the US if you want, which you think, or England or Singapore, wherever what region you're in, where it can make sense for you to kind of have some focus there. Okay, how to do sales. So I've learned over time, there can be like a right way and wrong way to do sales. But one of the biggest, if I had one big tip, it would be it's just to listen and to not sell. And so this is a great way to have a discussion with someone who could potentially use your company's products or services, and where they can, trust you more, feel like you're listening to them. You actually can listen to what they're talking about in terms of their feedback, which you can build into your product if it's appropriate. And so I've heard, where you should try on a sales call to listen 70 or 80% of the time. And I think that's a good goal. You don't have to do that because you get to some sales calls and they're like, okay, start the presentation. And if you ask them 100 questions or ask them to just talk for half an hour, they're not going to do that. But the goal is good. And the goal is to listen, um, and, um, and that kind of thing. All right. You want to probe, you want to problem solve, almost like a really good researcher, or what you envision a consultant might do, to really understand the core of what core of their business, first of all, and their teams and themselves, what drives them, and then the specific problem you're looking to help them solve. In some cases, they can suggest other problems that you hadn't even suggested, which can become huge opportunities for you, either a second product or the initial product with new capabilities. Um, and then, whenever you can bring insights and data. You can even use those to get meetings. I've had several vendors use that with me, like, hey, I've done a review of your website, or I've done a review of your press releases, and they're not very good. And if we talk, I have some ideas for you. And so, offering free advice can be a good way to get meetings, or in a meeting can be a good way to show that you are an expert in your field. Even if you're a two-person startup, you can be an expert in your field, and you can have a real strong view on the future, which can help them as a bigger company, where they're maybe less innovative, and they can rely on you for that expertise and that innovation. And then just be helpful in general, not be, selling and being forceful. There's a time when to ask for money. There's a time when to ask for them to sign a proof of concept document that has some funding. Those times will come, whether that's you or somebody else on the team. But You'll only do that, in my view, after you do these other things. Okay. And focus on value for the customer, not, this price or we're really affordable or it's this discount. Some software, other products or services, they do sell. One of the main value propositions is it's cheaper, or you're going to save 70% of your money, or this product is 10 times more performant than the other one, and it's a little more expensive, but you should pay for it because it's 10 times more performant. But you really want to focus on the value and not the pricing or the discounts or rushing to that kind of stuff too fast. If there's an objection for the customer, try to deal with it head on in terms of the product, this kind of thing, rather than saying, "Oh yeah, we don't have that, but I can give you a great deal." I mean, it might work sometimes, but in general, it's not a good way to do business. Okay, high level view of the marketing process into the sales process. And you may have heard the word funnel. So there's a funnel or a pipeline. And so leads kind of come into the funnel at the top. People become aware of you, they express interest and fill out a form on your website. You meet them at an event. You're introduced via email to somebody and they express interest. But it could be somebody like a student on your, like a student, nothing against students. We're all students still in life, but it could be a student on your website versus a company that has funding and has a real express interest. Versus a student might just want to learn about this stuff but not ever buy anything. And so you want to qualify that lead. If there's a Gmail address versus like a real company address, like Coca-Cola, then Coca-Cola is going to be more qualified than the Gmail address. Like, why are they not even giving your company address in the first place? There are Gmail addresses that people will use sometimes just to not get spam with their corporate account. So it's not like you shouldn't respond to them, but you can just qualify them, just make sure you're qualifying them in some other way. And then basically once the lead matures beyond the qualified stage, it becomes a sales opportunity. You might put this in Salesforce.com or Pipedrive, another CRM system, customer relationship management system. And then you have stages over this where the sales, it's a new opportunity. And then the probability can go from maybe 10 or 20% up to 30 to 40 after they do a demo or have a good discussion with you, up to 50 or 60 if you're talking about pricing and timing milestones, this kind of thing. And then 70, 80 when they're giving you a verbal yes, and then 90% maybe when you're in like legal and IT review. If you're in those review, if you're selling online to a consumer, you don't have to do all these steps. You can just sell it immediately in your store. But this is more like the B2B, which a lot of companies end up being B2B or B2B and B2C. And so this is more the B2B kind of stages and steps you go through. A lot of companies don't qualify these well and they say, oh, we have this great big pipeline, but their sales aren't going up. And it's because their sales reps aren't qualifying well. The sales managers or the CEO isn't asking the right questions about these companies or talking to them directly to know and look in their eyes and see if they really are interested or if the sales rep's just trying to show that they are making progress and that kind of thing. And then you actually win an opportunity. They sign a DocuSign or they sign like some actual like digital PDF file which has your quote on it and the pricing and the terms, and then it's a win. And then you help them deploy it or get value out of it and grow their usage hopefully over time. There's a renewal usually. It's either monthly, it could be annual, it could be in 3 or 5 years if it's a 3 or 5 year commitment or deal. And then you'll want to try to get price increases over time. If it's a 5 year deal, you're going to price it really well up front, or you're going to put in there every year we have the right to increase price by up to 3% or up to 5%, at least to try to keep pace with inflation, but also help you build more roadmap value for them and support them properly with your support team over time. You want to encourage more usage and value. You don't want to just sell a bunch of licenses that people don't use. Siebel was famous for this back in like 2000. They sold a bunch of deals and it was hard to get installed, and some people just didn't renew. And then you have a huge problem in terms of your growth because you're losing customers. You have to grow. You have to replace the customers that left first, and then you have to grow on top of that. It becomes double hard. You can cross-sell additional features or products or add-ons or services, and then you can upsell more units of the same product. If the company is growing that you sell to, that's great because you can have a built-in growth. If they're just growing every month or every year, they like you and your product or service, they'll just grow on their own. But you can also be proactive and say, hey, you have another unit at your company. Could you introduce me to them? I'd like to speak with them about this if you like our product. Or another unit, another geography for an existing unit, or they acquire a company. Could you help them with that company unit and that kind of thing? Or a more expensive version, you have different flavors. You might have a free version, a low price version, a medium, and a high price version. You can try to graduate them to a new tier over time in terms of the type of version. Okay. Some of the popular tools, you have a CRM, you have Salesforce. It's called Lightning, which is kind of the simpler version, which most people are using, I believe now, or most startups, if startups are using it. There's HubSpot, which is integrated CRM and marketing, which can be really great for early stage startups. And there's so many other different tools. And I apologize, these might even all be US companies or mostly US companies. There are great software companies all around the world. So these are just some examples I'm familiar with. Sales intelligence, engagement, to get contact information, you want to go sell to BMW, you can use tools to look up the contact information, or you can reach out on LinkedIn. You can use AI. You can do all sorts of interesting things. Okay, sales recording of phone calls, sales recommendations when you're on phone calls for the sales rep to make them smarter, all sorts of things. On the marketing side, HubSpot is the obvious one. Salesforce actually has marketing as well. And the MailChimp, if that's more if you just need something to do the emails really easily and affordably. And then you have SEO and SEM vendors if you don't want to try to do that yourself. These are types of things I kind of outsource earlier on and then maybe try to bring them in-house, but SEO, SEM, and then there's social media software, design software, etc. And there's a bunch of AI specialized tools now as well. In fact, there's one company on X I saw that somebody said he had an entire marketing team, which was all agents, which is pretty cool. And he had a AI agent org chart. I don't know how well it worked, but I think it's a neat thing to shoot for to have agents working for your marketing team, your sales team, and for the whole company to make things more efficient. Some advice on a go-to-market, just experimenting and testing, measuring things, obviously, doing the analytics work, even if it's imperfect. Do more of what works, do less of what doesn't work well. Do one thing extremely well. Some of the investors I've had have just they try to push you to be perfect at everything, which isn't reasonable when you're not a large company. And so I really disagree with that one. But I think everyone could agree to do one thing really well, whether that's if it's in the marketing side, PR or design, or product positioning, something really well, hopefully. Um, Always learning, things are always evolving, new tools. Maybe referrals could be used to find great vendors or to get introductions to customers or partners. And then talking to peers, like in the marketing people you hire in the future, the salespeople you hire, make sure they're talking to other companies as well and learning from them, or connect them with people who can advise them, whether they're a board member you hire or an investor who knows something about this stuff. So they're not working in isolation. Um, then think different things work for different companies, for different products at the same company, for different market segments at the same company. We have the same virtualization product at Virtuoso or Parallels, which was just completely different in terms of like sales and marketing and even a product perspective in the enterprise segment versus the cloud provider segment, completely different. And we naively assumed that they would be the one product and the one approach would work beautifully. Not the case. You could get lucky, but you can't count on the luck. Different things work at the same company over time. Things are rapidly evolving. Things are rapidly evolving right now with AI. Things are going to be very different a year from now. No, none of us know what it's going to look like, but we know it's going to be different. And so that's why you always want to keep learning, and keep your mind very open. I get very nervous about someone who claims to be an expert who's only worked at one company, or two companies that are almost identical. And so it's almost it's almost good to have gone through, excuse me, different experiences and had those failures and those mistakes to know what can really work well for your startup. Okay. Vendors can be a good way to get started. So you have to like hire a whole person, which can be incredibly expensive in terms of stock options or cash. And so they can be very part-time as well, like a SEO vendor or a PR vendor. In fact, there's a PR vendor I found that will just charge me $2,000 to $3,000 per press release. I'm sure there are firms that are even cheaper, but most in the US that I've talked to for technology companies, they want like $10,000 a month, or at least $6,000 a month. And if you are aggressive and entrepreneurial about it, you can get better deals than everybody else gets. Like Steve Jobs, when he was negotiating for those early parts for Apple, you should take that approach to being cost efficient whenever you can at your company. Make your investment money last longer, or your own money last longer. Um, and then, yeah, avoiding retainers when you can, or annual contracts if you can. If it doesn't work out, you're stuck paying for it. So make sure you can pay month to month, or maximum like 3 months, so you can get out of something if you need to. Avoid trying to enter too many markets at once. We did this at Parallels. We did extremely well in two markets. In the third market, we did horribly, and we spent millions and millions of dollars on that. The company still ended up being worth $3 billion over time, so can't complain too much. But maybe it could have been worth, 4, 5, or 6, or even more if we didn't waste so much there. And it was wasted because we didn't just enter it and then learn that it wasn't a good fit and just back out. We hired a huge team. We built a whole website for it. We spent a lot of money on going to events and sponsoring events, and it took us years and years to be honest with ourselves that it really wasn't a fit. Okay. Trying to do more than one sales model to start might not make sense unless you're just purely experimenting and you're not having to invest a lot to test it. Um, Doing things really well, we talked about, and then spending too much money before reaching product market fit. This is the famous web van example from the dot-com times where they spent billions and billions of dollars on all the infrastructure, but didn't really have the customers for it, and went bankrupt pretty quickly. Not to pick on them. And then almost done with the presentation part here. Thanks for your patience. A few fun website examples. It's really interesting to see what these companies can turn into over time. These are ones I've worked at in myself. I could actually pick ones where I worked with the solar founders and show you what happened to those. Those are really interesting as well. Um, but here's parallels actually when I joined. So not a very attractive website. This was in 2004. It kind of looks like maybe 1999. And it's all the different logos are all different colors and fonts, and it couldn't be more different or ugly. SW Soft name itself is meaningless. The SW doesn't mean anything. It's just really horrendous for like a software company. And this is what it became to look like over time. I mean, it's clean, it's modern, it's cool. You're running Windows on the Mac. And this is a picture from today, but it looked, basically this logo is something we had when I left. I did that the last couple of years. I was there in 2009 or something. Much better than this logo, for example, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's one fun example. This is Tengen and MongoDB. So I did not start the company. I met them when they were 20 or so people. I joined when they were a bit bigger than that. But this is one of the worst websites I've ever seen. And this is a company that had amazing founders who had sold the company for $3 billion and could get any kind of funding or hire anybody basically that they wanted. And this is what we had, when the company was, I don't know, it was 50 people or even 100, but just really bad. The product was good, not perfect yet, but the product was good, and it just a total branding nightmare between 10 Gen, which again 1 and 0 meant nothing. I mean, maybe it means ones and zeros for developers. I never got a straight answer from the founders, and just totally different colors, MongoDB versus 10 Gen, and this kind of thing. And so this is what it looks like now. It didn't look this good when I left, but it was MongoDB. I did change the name, and it was much more focused and much more professionally designed in a single color palette green. So that's quite an interesting example. And that's it. Oh, and then I had an exercise for you. You can just quietly rate yourself, but I was going to ask you to put it in the chat or do a poll, but we could just do it yourself. But how ready are you to help with sales for your startup? Maybe you're already doing this. Maybe you don't rate yourself a 10. Maybe you're willing to do it, you're doing it, but you feel like you're more like a 6. but you're doing it because there's no one else to do it, that's fine. If you're like a one, then hopefully someone else on the startup team is doing it. Your partner or founder is doing it. And then how ready are you to help with marketing for your startup? Maybe you already are. Maybe you created the website yourself on the weekend or something. Maybe you helped with some announcement with with your investment firm. And so it's interesting here that you have, well, so who at the company is actually going to be able to do this, or which vendor you can actually use to help you with this. And then to do sales versus help with sales. So the first one, help sales, could be joining a call and helping somebody else sell the product. Doing sales is actually you getting on the call and you selling the product or service, or you doing the marketing versus just kind of editing what somebody else drafts. So these are different distinctions. And I'm guessing we don't have a lot of 10 so far because I think a lot of the startups we have here might be, two people, three people, four people, five people. They could all be engineers. And so, or you may have a business person and they can work on this stuff and hopefully keep you up to date on it and include you. And then how ready are you to manage someone doing sales? It's better if you can do some of the sales first and then hire the first sales rep so you kind of know what you need to do with a customer and the whole process. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the preference. And same with marketing too. It's nice if you've actually helped edit something or draft something, or design something, or work with an AI tool to design something, versus just trying to manage someone and you've never done these things at all. It can be done. It's just you have to work harder at it to be useful to your team. And all the best to you as you move forward with your startup. That's all I have for that. Thank you so much. And Dimitri um,
Yes, we will go
yeah,
probably
Rowena.
now to like kind of a Q&A time. So in case anyone from the founders, well, I see the gratitude words, that's always great. However, if you want to dig into something specifically that Kurt just probably touched the surface upon, or also we have an option to kind of speak more about the teams, like sales team, how to grow our marketing team, how to grow it from the founders to further further beyond. So let us know if you have any questions already at this point, or you want to dig into some into one more subtopic in the sense, giving some 10 seconds to think.
Yeah, either questions or if you've had experiences at your startup with go-to-market, if you want to kind of share it, you think it might be helpful for other people, things that went well or didn't well, those are welcome as well. Okay. Here's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate a startup for investment? What specific metric do you have in mind? So I don't invest myself in terms of like a fund or firm. I was helping Constructor Capital a little bit, but with some meetings and their newsletter and talking to some people, but I'm not an investor, but if I was an investor, for me, it's all about the team. And actually, I kind of have been an investor because I decide where I want to work as a startup executive. And so when I met Datadog, when I met Mongo, what I was looking for, it was the team, number one. Are these people I want to work for? Do I think they can raise money? Do I think they can build an awesome product? And so for me, it's the team as an executive. And if I was an investor, I would basically, I think I'd have the same point of view. The best teams like they can find the product market fit, right? And then they can execute really well. Like Slack, it was a video game company that was failing, and the team was so good that they created a completely different product almost by mistake internally that became a $20 billion success or something in terms of Slack instant messaging. So the companies that can execute really well, that's teams. Like great teams can execute really well. The company with the best idea, I mean, I think it can help, but it's if you can't execute well, you can't build a strong team. This is like the Facebook example. I mean, the idea probably came from those other two guys, the brothers, but Mark Zuckerberg executed like crazy with his team and built an amazing team with fellow students and that kind of thing. So for me, it's the one metric is I'm not sure it's a metric how easy it is to measure, but it's the team. Like, would I work for this person? And if I was an investor, yeah, would I work for this founder or this co-founder? That would be the number one thing for me. And people may say, "Oh, we have a thesis, and this is what we go to our LPs with a thesis on, energy or climate or, deep tech or whatever." Those are important, like specialties, but I mean, it's still always got to be about the team. Like, you're not going to do a deep tech investment or a climate tech investment if the team sucks. It's going to be a waste of money. So, great question. Thank you.
Okay, there is the next one. I don't know if you want to
Yeah, do
read
you want to
it.
read it, Arena?
Oh, okay. So if you sell bespoke solutions slash value shop, do sales effort or team has to grow in parallel with Eng team, I guess the team
Engineering, yeah.
or
Engineering team,
engineering
yeah.
team, sorry. Or for example, we can book deals and push them down the pipeline or hire more engineers based on deals closed. So like basically
Yeah.
technical versus sales personnel and product growth and sales growth.
Yeah, this sounds a little bit like the chicken and the egg problem, but it sounds interesting. And it's actually, I think it's great that Ross, I think it's great that you're thinking about helping the customers with the full solution, right? And then I mean, I assume these are some sort of services or customizations, but it could just be, sell stuff and then go get the developers to actually just develop your core product. In either case, it's a tricky thing, but it's good to not do either extreme. So don't hire too many people up front, and actually don't wait too long, and try to find a middle ground. And for example, I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about. It might be, but at Ubersmith, we had a new professional services set of offerings, and we would start selling those and marketing those, and we got interest and we sold the first couple, but we didn't hire a professional services team in advance. We just used our development team, and we said, "Sorry, development team, you're going to have to help build this accounting integration or this special pricing feature with our billing engine." But it's a way to get started, because we didn't know we could have a full-time professional services developer right away, or professional services project manager right away. So the easiest thing I've seen is just stealing like fractional parts from your team. If you're a very small startup, this can definitely be done. If you're a 5-person startup, can you use like half of one person to build some special thing for for some company in England or something? Absolutely can. But if it's a big deal and they want you to have like 3 people right away, that's probably not going to work. And so if it's like a bigger thing and you're a small company, you will have to like find either maybe a consulting firm could be a way to do this, where they have people who already know your stack, they already know their experience, and you can go with a more experienced contractors. That can be a way to do it. They know, if you're in the wireless space, they know wireless telecom, so you're not like teaching them what these wireless protocols are, and this kind of thing. And so you can use contractors in some cases, consultants, or you can get the customer to sign a bit in advance and say they're going to pay you like $1 million up front for this year, $1 million up front next year, and then you can afford to go hire people pretty quickly in that case. So there are different ways to do it. It's not easy, but it's a great question. Okay.
Maybe Ross, if you want any comments or like what do you want to know exactly or dig into?
No, this covers it. Thanks a lot, Kurt.
Thank you. All right, Ivan, hi. What you got?
Hello there. Yes, thank you very much for such an informative talk. Ivan here. So we are building the AI agent, AI assistant in here, and actually our go-to-market our journey, our go-to-market part basically started maybe a few weeks ago. So
Nice.
I would probably not spend too much time as to like what the strategy, given your budgets are low. I think that optimizing your funnels, making sure that you're decreasing your bounce rate on each step of your funnel is the very first thing that you can do when you're limited on budget. But my question is more focused on your experience, and given you're mostly working with the basically selling the infrastructure products to your customers, to your enterprise customers. So as we are building the AI platform, so my question would be, so what sources of resistance do you typically see when you suggest that we can build let's say like some cloud infrastructure, but we can provide you also with these AI capabilities? And let's say what are the most, what your clients are mostly resistant when you're trying to sell AI capabilities when it comes to their proprietary data? When you say that we can give you this AI agent, but it will require access to your proprietary or sensitive data that you operate, or maybe that data belongs to your customers and you might be legally obliged not to operate with their data. So do you see that resistance? And the next question would be, if there is such resistance, where small startup companies could be more effective in position to suggest like a solution for it, where enterprise might fail or might not be interested, or that might not be their business. So where small startups can basically win and provide a solution for that resistance that you are seeing.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with that first. Really, really interesting set of questions there. Where the small companies can help is you can move faster, you can build something faster for them. They could, whatever they want, you can probably solve their issue faster. Not necessarily like if they need like a hugely performant database, they'd probably just go to Oracle or Microsoft or something, or Mongo or something, or Postgres. But if it's something kind of a newer area, if it's AI, it is newer. I like so you can move faster. It might be more affordable, but it's again, I don't like thinking about that first. I'd like, okay, can you move faster? Does your team have the skills to develop something more innovative? Do you have like the vision to develop something that would be more valuable for them? The obstacles, I love this, the obstacles and objections, because you're actually kind of doing sales training before you actually get into the sales situation. And a lot of times people, I mean, there's so many different things you'll face. Like one is there's these like people who want to talk to you, but don't want to do anything with you. So they're like really interested in AI. They'll take the meeting. Hey, that's great, Ivan, let's chat, come to our office. And then, but they're not ready to like actually test the product or give you feature things or give you any money or anything else. And so I found this in the banking world. There's these people who are like chief innovation officers or whatever, and they love to their job is to actually just talk to a lot of startups and do some testing, but not necessarily to actually deploy or purchase. And so being careful with the innovation people, if you have those kind of titles, it's not like it can't lead somewhere, like at JP Morgan, go have the meeting, just be careful, assume maybe nothing will come out of it. But then if they're like, oh no, we really need to talk to you, you need to come in here, we can pay you $60,000 for proof of concept. Okay, obviously you can talk to that type of person. There are other companies who they're just okay with what they have, or they don't want to go with a two-person startup, and it's something for them, it's really important. They're risk averse and they want to go with a company that has at least 200 people. Those people are going to be, less easy to convince. I guess the biggest thing is to be prepared for any objection, and try to keep like a straight face, and don't, turn red because you're like, oh my God, they've really exposed me, and I'm a two-person company and they need at least a 100-person company. And you never want to lie and say, oh, you're a 200-person company. You never want to like sacrifice your integrity ever, basically. You fake it till you make it, but I don't think you lie. I think you fake it, you make your company look bigger with a nice website, but you don't put on your website you're 200 people. Like that's a lie. I don't believe in that. So fake it till you make it, but don't lie. Hopefully that keeps you out of jail. And just the different, the objections can come from anywhere. The fact that you're even thinking about them just shows me that you either have experience with this, or you're prepared when you get in there to get those types of objections, whatever they are.
If I may, throw the little detail in here. So we are in the data privacy sector first, I would say. So we care about the companies who can't, for some reason, go with enterprise AI solutions, like for big tech cloud guys like OpenAI, Microsoft, so on. So I'm just wondering whether you heard this somewhere, for the reason that we kind of business that we can't go and integrate OpenAI enterprise solutions into our business just because we have some obligations or some obstacles that do not allow us to do that, to work with that. Because we are looking, if there is a market basically for AI capabilities that can't be provided on an enterprise level on the cloud, but rather going with the private cloud or on-premises solutions, let's say some medical institutions or law firms that operate with their customers' data, and they might not have consent, as I said, from their customers for their data to be somehow operated with AI. So is it something that you're seeing, or is it mostly solvable with just making sure you're credible, you're compliant with SOC and other
Yeah, I mean,
certifications with
I don't know
dating?
if
Yeah,
I don't know if I have anything super helpful to say, but I have worked with some AI companies, and I think it depends on what you're talking about. But some of those issues are really, really important to your customers, and so thinking through those and how you can make customers more comfortable, or talking to like a security expert, or writing things down in terms of what your approach is, or having a good
yeah,
approach. I guess it really depends on who you're talking to and that. But for AI in particular, it's extra, it's extra kind of important to get those
yeah,
things kind of locked down. But usually in my experience, those things kind of come into play later. I mean, they can come up in the first sales call, but the really important, work on that, it comes later when they're doing the serious security or IT or legal review. But they might ask you in the first meeting,
yeah, of course.
and you could just say, we're happy to work with you later in the process. But and do whatever it takes to make sure that's done well. But we'd like to focus more on the product capabilities, and if there's a fit for that first.
Of
So
course.
you can just tell, sometimes you can kind of delay it. And because if there's no fit on the product, there's no sense in getting into a rat hole on the security stuff anyways, or privacy.
Absolutely. Yes, that's
Thanks
our
so much,
challenge. Yeah,
Ivan,
thank you very
again.
much for your time. Yeah.
Of course. Adi, what you got? Nice to meet you.
Oh, sorry. Quickly, I saw your website, Virtuoso, and also I saw you had this high performance compute part. We are actually working on real-time digital twin stuff. So maybe I pinged you on LinkedIn. Maybe we can actually discuss in detail on certain aspects of it.
Okay. Sure. Yeah,
In the
be a minimum.
context
It'd
of
be interesting
simulations.
to know what you're going after.
Yeah, sure. In the digital twin
Okay.
space. Yeah, super. That would be great. I can ping
Okay.
you in
Cool.
details on the LinkedIn. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, and anybody, feel free to add me to LinkedIn. I love just connecting with people, and that way I can see if you have announcements about your startup or something. I can
Well, you
try to
also
see
have
them.
the email address straight away, so
Yes.
people can
Perfect.
ping you. And thank you also so much for that. But thank you also, Adi, for asking beforehand. I wanted just to ask in the end if there is any opportunities for the networking further. But you kind of preceded the expectations and my question. All
Great.
right. More questions coming the way, or comments, or something that you want to discuss. We still have a little bit of time left. Yes, Claudio.
So, sorry, I wasn't here from the beginning, but I think I got the picture. I'm curious because if I understand correctly, you're providing exactly the type of solutions that some of our customers may be actually looking for. I'm talking about semiconductor companies that are extremely secretive, exactly as was mentioned before. There are companies that are extremely sensitive even within their own departments, even like, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
right? So the question was here, we're deploying a system that has to consume the data of the user to be able to create these complex digital twins and to be able to dynamically create scenarios around them. And most of the time they said, look, we have to have everything on-prem, right? And by on-prem, they usually mean having their own infrastructure, or, and this is my question, would they accept something like a solution that Virtuoso proposes, as an alternative to their, or being considered their own, let's say, infrastructure? Are you providing them with, let's say, completely independent structures or data, even physical racks in their on their locations, or you're doing some kind of on your servers, you're just dedicating their machines with their own, let's say, how to say, delineated usage?
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, forgive me because I'm only 1 week on the job. Although I did work at this company 17 years ago, the products are completely different
Okay.
now. We do have, but I think I got it. We have a cloud offering. So actually, we have data center part. We don't own data centers. Few people do, but we have third parties we work with, and data center. We put our software in there, and then we host it, and we do provide the full service to some customers. And then, but most of the customers, it's self-hosted or on-prem. It's in their data centers, or maybe it could be the same data centers, third-party data centers, but those companies, the cloud providers, the small to medium-sized ones, or the software companies or the enterprises, They use our software and put it there to run it. And it can be the core cloud stuff. It could just be for storage. It could be for the various applications. And I have a whole suite of products. But it is, regardless, it's efficient infrastructure, no matter what the model is, so or where it is.
Okay. And the question was, how do you actually win when you try to compete? I think there's a lot of competition in your space, right?
Versus, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some open source companies. There's a VMware for certain people. There's a range of stuff, and we compete on efficiency. And just it's kind of like it can be an all-in-one platform. So we have basically more of the building blocks for the company efficiency. It's our market focus, and our partnerships, like our channel as well. So those are at least like three of the areas. I'd like it to be marketing in the future, and then it will become AI in terms of the products. And we're going to add business stuff like BSS, OSS stuff as well, and just keep building those kind of complete platform elements, which is it's a strong strategy. Anytime you can do that with one vertical market and just build more and more and more of what somebody wants, it can be a really strong way to not only win customers, but capture a lot of value from them and give them a lot of value and then retain them, because leaving a system that does accounting, not at Ubersmith, we did,
Oh,
billing and device management and support and quoting and CRM and all these things. It's really hard to rip and replace that. So thanks for the question.
yeah, thank you.
All right. Well,
Hey, we can end early, Irina, if you want, unless there's a
yes, I
burning
mean,
question
if there
there.
are no questions, and I see that Dmitry gave a hint that on the demo day, Kurt will be also present. So see you on demo day, and hopefully, yes, yes, you,
If
Konstantin.
there's still
Sorry?
chance, yes,
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 yes, yes, yes. Sorry,
can I
sorry,
ask
I
a
just didn't
question?
see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thanks, Kurt, for nice lecture. I have very general and very naive question or comment. So for now, for example, I have a company in biotech. So revenue and first real clients will come a bit later. We just we maturate, we prepare, we find first client who start to collaborate with us. So that's good. But I have impression that there are no general recommendation. I just follow your slides. So there are many details, many tactical decisions. And so my question is the next. For now, for example,
Yeah.
me and many colleagues here, we are busy just keeping minimum which is needed to start. So we just have, let's say, 8 workshops, and we go ahead and we have this minimum. But for example, in 6 months or in 1 year, I have first successful fundraising, I have 10 people, and I may feel that I'm good because we're doing somehow good. But if we invite experienced performance driver like you, we
Yeah.
invite you for 1 week and you talk to each colleague, to me, and you say, guys, no, you have bottleneck here, here, and there, and you may move 100 times better if you turn left tomorrow, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So, what would be your recommendation? Should we try to find this fresh blood or external performance driver to question strategy, and it should
Yeah.
be done regularly. My impression, because
Yeah.
we can be lost inside. So how to be not lost inside? What would be your recommendation?
Uh, I love the question. I like it. The companies I join as like a CEO or a board member advisor, that's what they hire me to do. So come in, assess the team, let's push the performance, let's take the pace up, let's change direction a little bit, let's keep doing these things. And so at a startup, I think it's great that you're asking that, because some people just, oh my God, I'm going to go build this thing and I'm in love with this idea and I'm going to build it no matter what, even if there's no customers. And that could be dangerous. And so just the fact that you're open to that, I think you can get that from your investors. If you're careful, some investors will have actually business experience, so that'd be a former founder or CTO or CEO, and that's great. It doesn't mean it's the exact same company or it's necessarily going to be helpful, but there's a good chance it could be helpful. And so I think it can come from your investors. but it can also come from other founders. Like on this call, you can talk to in this community, you can exchange notes with other people, and there's this performance issue you're having, or this employee is doing this thing. And so I'd say other founders and just the other people in your company, like hopefully your co-founder, you can talk about all this stuff. And if you feel like you just don't really don't know what to do, you can either figure it out or just talk to other people, talk to your peers, talk to the investors. Sometimes it's like a potential investor that doesn't even invest in you, but they give you some feedback or they're willing to have some relationship. It could be a cousin, it could be an aunt, it could be a friend from school, from college. The usefulness can come from anywhere, and you can read too. Like you can read. There's some founders or CEOs I follow on Twitter, and they have amazing feedback. It's like, oh my gosh, like I feel less lonely as a CEO, or you feel less lonely as a founder. Just a little bit of comfort, like a very surgical. Like you don't want to spend a lot of time on Twitter, but at night I'll just open it up. If I'm in an elevator or something in the building, I'll just open it up, and if there's something good, I'll read it. And sometimes every 10 times I open it, there's something pretty good because I follow some pretty good people. So yeah, the helpfulness can come from it anywhere. But I love that you're open to it, and but also yeah, don't yeah, try to get the feedback, but don't worry too much if you're just working hard and smart with a great team. A lot of times you can just figure this stuff out. But if you can get access to those other people, that's huge. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess that was actually a very nice question by the end, how not to get lost inside and also to be open to new things or to be open to see what you have thought was true or was going to be the most useful thing. And then did it work out or did it, I don't know, even exceeded the expectations probably. So yeah, with this being said, again, I'm coming back to the demo day and Kurt, see you there. Hopefully you will see also the teams on the stage and the program team as well. Yeah, we're moving forward to week 8 again. We're moving towards the session of how to speak to B2B corporations and partners, which will be on Thursday with Slava Driglov, one of our mentors and also a very contributing expert in the sense. I think of Ivan. It's one of your mentors, right?
We spoke with Slava on separate occasions, but he was not our direct mentor. But we
not direct mentor, but he was also contributing. Yeah, so you know what I mean. But anyways, it's just a teaser to also go on Thursday to the session. Kurt, thank you so much for your insights and for your experience.
And very welcome. I hate to do this, but I want to. This other question from Ross is really good too. Let me just take it real quick in the chat. So, how much effort? This is a tricky one, but some products you can actually ask for money like right away, like in the first call, or you can tell them how much it is if it's like a simple marketing tool or something. If this is like some big thing you need to build, it's going to be very, very expensive or millions of dollars. Then it's they may ask about ballpark cost and you can give them like a range or something, but not commit to it. But I think doing a demo, create a demo, this kind of thing, you should be prepared to do that for pretty much anyone that seems credible. And then sometimes you don't talk about terms for like 5 or 10 calls. And you have to figure out if you're going to do the 5 or 10 calls with this customer or not. And sometimes you can ask them to do like a POC, like if you need to build something for them, or actually if you have something built, but they're just a bigger company and they don't just want to buy the product. They have to go through this process and test it and this kind of thing. You can actually have them sign a piece of paper and ask them for money. Like if it's a big bank, you can ask them for 20 grand or 40 grand or even more than that. It depends what you're doing. And sometimes you just have them sign the proof of concept thing that they agree to assign somebody, do this within 2 months, give you feedback within 2 months. And these are the success factors. We hit this performance, with the product, and we pass the POC, and after that we'll work on a commercial agreement. So sometimes there are ways to avoid wasting time to get them to sign a piece of paper to agree what you want to do in terms of a process. And sometimes you can actually ask for money for that. And then for the simpler products, you can actually talk about commercial stuff in the first call. But other ones, you're going to do multiple calls and that kind of stuff. But this is a hard one. It really depends. But when you can look in the video and kind of look in their eyes, or even get in person, sometimes if you're fortunate enough to do that, sometimes you can tell right away if they're really serious or if they're just kind of just wanting to learn about something innovative. But we'll stop there. Thanks again, Arena, and I hope to see all of you again soon. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anything else,
I'm
Arena?
very sorry, Ross, that
Yeah.
I missed the question because I guess my feed just went really fast. But thanks a lot
No
for
worries. No
saying
worries.
that.
Thanks a lot.
Yes. All right, then. Thank you so much for the engagement, guys. And yeah, see you on Thursday.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Kurt, for the session. Have a nice afternoon. Have a nice day. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.